Welcome once again. Glad you could join us. As always, we are with Greg Engert, beer director for the Neighborhood Restaurant Group, which includes such great places as Vermilion, Tallulah and Eat Bar, also, of course, Rustico, 2 locations in Alexandria and Ballston. What's on tap this week?
All right, so this week we are doing a relatively new collaboration beer from Stone Brewing Company. They've collaborated this time with Bear Republic from Healdsburg, up the state in California, as well as with Fatheads, which is a brewery and bar that has a location in Pittsburgh as well as in Cleveland now. And it's cool. Stone has this great collaborative spirit, and they always do it with 2 other breweries. And they're really funny. They plan it out over time, and they have a great schedule of when they're going to do these beers. And actually, we're hoping to do one with our brewery, Blue Jacket, after we open. We're hoping to do something with Stone as well. But in this case, they've joined up with Fatheads. Matt Cole primarily designed the beer. He is the brewmaster for Fatheads, and it's called TBA, which stands for Texas Brown Ale. One of the first home brewing recipes Matt ever made was this kind of hoppy American brown ale, and he said that it kind of defied style at the time because it was too hoppy to be a brown ale, of the English tradition, which is typically toasty and nutty. Well, today, of course, it seems that everybody's making a kind of black IPA. They take an IPA and they add lots of darker malt, some roasted malt, things like that, to make it taste kind of roasty and hoppy at the same time.
With some nice results, like one we tried a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, Stone, of course, made one of the first real black IPAs to hit the market in mass, and that's the Sublimely Self-Righteous.
Well, that's what that was it.
Yeah, exactly. So, now, though, ever since everybody's doing black IPAs, it's like, well, what do we do next? So, last time, or a couple times ago, we tasted that Galaxy White IPA. You see lots of Belgian IPAs with Belgian yeast. And so now they're kind of going back to a sort of brown IPA, which is really what the American brown ale style was. You'll see if you look at the beer here, it's got a brownish hue, but it's not dark, nutty brown. No. It's a little bit amber, tawny in points.
Dark amber.
Dark amber, exactly. So not even really brown per se. And, it gives us some toasty, nutty, slightly roasted chocolatey notes, but then it's got a nice sweetness that's balanced by the aggressive hoppy quality. They're using Columbus hops here, which are known for bittering capacity, some Bravo, which is really high alpha acid, lots of bitterness too. Herbal hops, not a lot of fruit from the hops here. And I think some Cascade too, which just gives it a little bit of that floral citric note in the nose. An interesting thing also about this beer is that it says even on the label is that it's an ale brewed with brown sugar and molasses. You have to talk about the things you put in your beer besides water, yeast, hops, malt, things like that. And so one might be inclined to think, oh, that's why it's brown, or oh, it must taste like brown sugar and molasses. In actuality, when brewers add honey or sugars or brown sugars and molasses, really what they're doing is just feeding the yeast.
Right.
Simple sugar that will get the alcohol up without leaving residual body that if you added more malt, you'd ferment some of the sugars and leave lots of body. So it's the reason why you can get Belgian strong dark ales that are 12% alcohol but taste really dangerously light on the palate, because they're using sugars to get the alcohol up without the residual malt. And that's what's happening here. It's kind of refreshing on the palate. It's not too rich.
Some of that.
You get that green, pungent, like pine.
And a bit of a molasses
aroma. A little bit.
Not strong.
But that's mostly from the malts, yeah. But it's got a big, bold, like green hop character to it.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's delicious.
It's nice.
It's nice. And it's, is this an American hoppy American brown? Is it an American amber with hops? It's kind of tough to say, but it's delicious. And this is definitely one that you should drink as soon as you get your hands on it. Because you can smell that great pungent green hop note. That'll dissipate quickly, and it'll just it'll lose that essence, the hop essence there.
Let's talk a bit about collaborations. I mean, what fun, and I don't know how many, but I've heard of a lot. Mikkeller did something with the stateside
Saison. Oh yeah, with Brian Strumke, Stillwater.
Yeah, who makes stateside Saison.
Yeah, our side.
About 3 breweries? I mean, does that make it more complicated? I mean,
I don't think so. We actually, it's funny because we just participated in our first collaboration, and that was with 2 other breweries as well. So actually, it's kind of fun. I mean, I think the best thing about it, and if you're going to collaborate, you're showing that you don't have ego that's so huge that what you do is best and all that. And the cool thing is that brewers are and owners of breweries are so cool with each other. Everybody collaborates all the time. If you have a question like, did this work? How should I do that? They want to help each other because they think it really is just going to further the beer making process, going to make new things, great things. And I can't think of another industry that's like that. So the collaboration aspect makes a lot of sense. And I think that we all realize that we can learn so much from each other. It's like 3 heads are better than 2. And so, you start off being like, well, I think we should do this beer. What do you guys think? Well, that sounds good. I've had a lot of success using this malt. Oh, yeah, and that goes really great with this hop. And then next thing you know, you have this amazing creation you would not have had you not done the collaboration.
And you've got this cross-promotion going on where someone who goes to Fatheads who's never tried Stone says, I really like that. Maybe I'll try this Stone beer. And in the reverse, out in California, the people at Stone Fatheads, well, I'm going to Pittsburgh next week. I'll stop by their place.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, that's a great point, especially like in this area, for instance. We get Stone beers. We get Bear Republic beers. We obviously do not get Fatheads beers. So somebody's going to look at this and, say, if it's, and I'm the same, if it says Stone, I buy it. Whatever it is, it's going to be great. Same with Bear Republic. But maybe, and I've liked Fathead beers for a long time, as you have.
Yes.
But, I can see somebody saying, oh, I love Stone beers, and be like, what's this Fathead thing? And then being like, yeah, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh next week. I got to go there. So it's a great way, especially for smaller brewers, to kind of get the word out about how great their beers are.
Yeah, I would definitely say to hopheads, if you get to Pittsburgh or Cleveland and get to Fatheads, you got to try the Headhunter. IPA, which you probably would anyway if you happen to stumble in there. And there's a physical part of at last month's beer dinner you had here with the Norwegian brewer. I talked to the brewmaster, and they had collaborated with someone in Norway. A 10-hour drive away, I think is what he said. And so there is some physical work to it because he said, okay, we brewed the first batch of our collaboration at their place. And then I think he said they took the yeast from their place and moved. The other place moved to their place. So I mean, it takes. It's not just talking on the phone or
and also
swapping emails.
And it is tough. It's travel. It's time because everybody's so busy these days. But the other thing is finding room in your schedule of brewing. Craft beer is obviously huge, and most breweries are keeping up with demand, constantly needing to expand just to maintain the markets they already have, let alone not even thinking about going to new markets. So if you want to brew a beer with another brewery, I mean, they have to make sure that they can find time in their schedule because they have accounts that need the beer. Yeah. And, no matter what system you have, you can only brew so many batches that can fit into fermentation space. And that's the big thing about brewing is the fermenters, because beer takes time to ferment. So unless you have an open fermenter, there's no point in brewing some beer up unless you have a fermenter in which to place that brewed beer. So it can be tricky kind of figuring out the schedule and working these collaborations. But a key thing about craft beer is it's done for the beer first. And brewers are willing to say, you know what, we'll just brew one less batch the previous week and save that fermenter for this collaboration. Yes, we might lose a little money, but how fun is it going to be to craft something like this?
We talked about Kentucky Breakfast Stout a couple months ago.
Yeah.
This might not be bad with brunch, would it?
Oh, no,
this
would be great. Oh, yeah. I mean, this screams bacon. No, I think that's great. I'm going to start asking you the questions.
I wouldn't do that.
But you're absolutely right. And again, I love beers like this. It's like a few weeks back we talked about the Nonyo, the Norwegian brewery, the Citra IPA. Hoppy, yes. Seasoning hoppy. Like the flavors of the hops are fantastic. We think almost like eggs and spinach omelet or something like that would be really cool with this, with a green leafy quality to that, like Florentine or something. But then you also had that smooth, sweet malt characteristic, which sings with all sorts of breakfast meats, bacon and things. And then obviously breakfast is all about bread, between French toast, pancakes, biscuits, donuts, all this stuff, bagels, things like that. And beer is liquid bread. So, I mean, beer is a natural with that as well.
And before we go, we talked about this. I wanted to ask you about this at the beginning. Black IPAs, white IPAs. I think the thing I so love these days about IPAs is it's all over the board. You don't know what you're going to get. Now, some people may not like that because the way their brain works. I mean, when you go to McDonald's, you want the French fries to taste the same every time. Yeah. But with the IPAs these days, you just never know what you're going to get.
And honestly, for a long time, you haven't either. I mean, one of the classic examples is we used to talk about East Coast IPAs versus West Coast IPAs. Something like 60 Minute or Victory Hop Devil, Dogfish Head 60 Minute, or Victory Hop Devil are going to be kind of more malty. They're not as lean and bitter and dry. But then if you drink Stone Ruination, Racer 5 from Bear Republic, you're going to get this West Coast style, which is way crisper, cleaner, less malty, and super bitter. So there's always been a kind of subtle difference for a lot of beers. But you're right, now it's like you can get something can be called an IPA that's more of a brown ale, really, in this case, or you never know what you're going to get. But that's the beauty of it, of adventure and exploration of the beers.
All the more reason to try something you haven't tried before. Totally. Greg, thanks as always. We appreciate it. I'm Brennan Haselton. Please do always drink responsibly, and be sure to bring your thirst next time for another Beer of the Week.
Section 3 is still surviving on his teeth.